I'm a tenured professor at a major Northeastern university. At 42, I'm still grappling with the events of my wedding. To give you the full picture, I need to start with my family dynamics. My younger sister Lisa, 38, has always been our parents' favorite. She pursued a career in media and now works as a local TV personality, while I dedicated years to research and writing academic articles. Growing up, our parents showered Lisa with praise and funding, paying top dollar for her theatrical classes, while I was told to make do when I needed supplies for science projects. The only person who truly championed me was my grandmother, Martha. "Elena, you have a brilliant mind," she'd say. "Don't let anyone dim your light." She even celebrated with me when my first research paper was published in a major journal, right alongside our parents, who were glued to one of Lisa's TV segments. After all that effort, I became one of the youngest female professors in my field, an outcome my parents hadn't envisioned, but one I was quietly proud of. Then, at an academic conference, I met David, 44. He was engaging, intelligent, and understood me in a way no one else did. After 2 years of dating, I was thrilled when he proposed. My parents' response? "Well, at least you won't be alone with your books anymore." Lisa, with her usual condescending grin, said, "Finally, someone who can handle your intensity." Our engagement party was at my parents' house, and Lisa insisted on helping. Her help mostly meant pushing her own ideas and criticizing mine. She started dropping by during my work hours, so often that I shrugged it off as typical bossiness. In hindsight, the warning signs were there. David's eyes would follow her when she entered a room, and she'd laugh at his jokes, casually touching his arm. Around the same time, David was pulling later shifts at the lab, and Lisa began appearing in our neighborhood more frequently. The last moment of normalcy came when I was in my childhood bedroom, flipping through old photos. My graduation picture hung front and center, while a collage of glossy shots of Lisa in the spotlight was tucked beneath it, a perfect metaphor for my place in the family. Below me, the engagement celebration was in full swing, and I realized I hadn't seen David in a while. Assuming he was on a work call, I went upstairs looking for him. I froze when I heard noises coming from that bedroom. My hand hovered over the doorknob, but despite the sinking feeling in my gut, I opened the door. David and Lisa were entwined on the very bed where I'd studied for my PhD. Lisa didn't even blush. "Oh, Elena, you should have known," she said with that all-too-familiar smug smile. "I always get what I want." David tried to stammer an apology. I held his gaze only long enough to confirm my worst fears before storming out. Halfway down the stairs, my parents intercepted me. "Darling, please don't make a scene," my mother pleaded, eyes wide. "Think of Lisa's marriage," my father chimed in, voice shaky. "You know Richard has money at stake. There's a prenup. Don't ruin everything." The same family that had ignored my accomplishments was now begging me to protect Lisa from the fallout. I walked into the living room, where the chatter died instantly. David hurried after me, shirt unbuttoned and face smeared with her lipstick, begging me to listen. I took a breath, my voice calm. "I'm sorry, but the engagement is off. Enjoy the party." I gathered my car keys and left before anyone could argue. Once outside, David chased me to the driveway, pleading for a chance to explain. My mother's crying filled the air, and I could see Lisa watching from the doorway, her triumphant smile replaced by stunned silence. I loaded every bit of David's stuff, his rare papers, books, clothes, into boxes, rented a storage unit, and sent him the address with the code. Then I blocked his number, his email, and his social profiles. When my parents and relatives started calling and texting guilt trips about family loyalty, I blocked them too. That night, sitting in my half-empty apartment, I realized this betrayal was rooted in a lifetime of being second best. I poured myself a glass of wine and started deleting their contact info. With each name gone, I felt lighter. I was choosing myself for the first time. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work, spending hours in the lab with my research team, pushing toward a molecular biology breakthrough. 3 weeks after the party, Richard, the real estate developer Lisa married, showed up at my office, looking exhausted and rumpled. "I need the truth," he said quietly. I told him everything. He listened, then straightened his tie. "Thank you for your honesty," he said. "You're the only family member who respected the truth." He left soon after, and word got back to me that he filed for divorce. My parents' attempts to reconcile grew more desperate, voicemails begging to fix the family, and emails about forgiveness. Lisa, however, remained radio silent throughout it all. Grandma Martha was my rock. She'd bring home-cooked meals, share her own stories of hardship, and remind me that the family you choose can matter more than the one you're born into. Determined to turn my pain into purpose, I focused on drafting my next paper. When it was accepted by one of the top journals in my field, I felt a surge of vindication. That same day, I got an email from Michael, 45, a renowned expert in research facility design. He congratulated me and suggested our departments collaborate. His tone was warm, genuinely interested in my science, not just formal niceties. We've since started discussing how lab design impacts research efficiency, and for the first time in months, I feel hopeful about the future. Over time, our emails grew longer and more personal. He confided how his family had supported him in pursuing the rather unusual career of blending scientific research with architectural design. One afternoon, I literally ran into Michael at the campus cafe, splashing coffee all over his crisp white shirt while he was visiting for a conference. As I fumbled to help him clean up, Michael just smiled and said, "Well, this is a lot more exciting than our email chats." Instead of getting upset, he asked if he could buy me a replacement coffee. I hesitated after everything with David. I'd sworn off dating, especially in academic circles. But there was something about Michael, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, and how he never tried to dazzle me with his resume. Sensing my reluctance, he laughed and assured me, "I promise I'm not a serial killer, just a clumsy architect who'd like to repay your coffee and maybe hear more about your research in person." Just coffee, I agreed. For the first time in months, I felt relaxed as we sat and talked. David's memory faded further. Michael truly listened when I described my work, asking thoughtful questions with refreshing honesty. Before he slipped off to his next session, he asked if we could meet again. To my surprise, I said yes. That evening, I sat in my office, staring out at the quad, its long shadows stretching across the grass as the sun dipped low. I felt something I hadn't in ages. Hope not only for a different kind of relationship, but for a life of my own making, free from Lisa's controlling influence and my family's expectations. When my phone buzzed with a text from my mother, "Lisa is struggling, and Sasha is acting irrationally," I looked at the message, then deleted it without a word. Some bridges really do need to stay burned. Instead, I opened my email and began drafting a note to Michael about a possible joint research project. I smiled at the memory of his eyes lighting up when we discussed interdisciplinary collaboration. Maybe this was the start of something entirely mine, untouched by the toxic ties of my past. 6 months later, many of you asked for an update on Michael, the architect I met at the cafe. That first coffee evolved into dozens of video calls to plan our study, and surprisingly, our business talk slid seamlessly into long conversations about everything from childhood ambitions to favorite novels. Michael found my academic passion fascinating, something my family had always dismissed as a weakness. Our first date happened when he returned to town for a conference. What began as a project meeting ran late, and hunger led us to a cozy Italian bistro near campus. We shared a plate of pasta until the waitstaff began clearing tables. Once again, I was struck by how unlike David he was. Michael had actually read my latest paper, came equipped with insightful comments, and spoke candidly about his own budget-blowing design project. When he gently probed about my family, I braced for judgment. Instead, he listened, really listened. As I told him about Lisa, my parents' favoritism, and that disastrous engagement party, then he shared his own story of growing up with a competitive brother. Our collaboration is still thriving, but we consciously separate work from weekends. Since his department is in another state, that distance has been surprisingly helpful, giving us space to build trust naturally. Last month, he invited me to meet his family, terrifying at first, but his mother Linda welcomed me with warmth, showing me Michael's childhood sketches and those hilariously awkward photos of him trying to rebuild the garage with his dad's power tools. When she gushed about my research, "Michael can't stop talking about how brilliant you are." It felt genuine, not competitive. I forgot to mention I'd been offered a position near his university, a career move I'd been dreaming of. His eyes lit up. "That's amazing. Tell me more about the research possibilities." I was over the moon but said nothing about what it might mean for us. I haven't accepted yet, after everything. I'm wary of making big life changes for love, but knowing Michael has my back makes me feel that this time, I can let my career guide the decision. When my grandmother Martha met him, her verdict was simple: he sees you for who you are, not who he hopes you'll be. It's been quiet with my family since. Healing sometimes means walking away from those who don't value you, even if they're related. 3 months after that update, I'm excited to share what's happened. I accepted the offer at the university near Michael's, and my research team welcomed the move with open arms. We set up a solid plan for remote work, and the transition went smoothly because I took the time to map it all out. Then, just last weekend, in Michael's kitchen while we were cooking dinner, he surprised me. He didn't kneel or deliver a grand speech. He just held up a small box and said, "You know how we've been talking about merging our research labs for efficiency? I've also been thinking about merging our lives. What do you think?" Inside was a simple, elegant ring, nothing like the gaudy piece David gave me, and even a tiny matching desk lamp for late-night study sessions. Tears, laughter, and I said yes. His family is planning a celebration, and Linda keeps checking that I'm comfortable with the arrangements. Michael even joked we could skip the party if I prefer. After so much upheaval, I feel as though I'm finally authoring my own story. When I hesitated, Michael smiled and reassured me we'd keep the celebration small, just close friends and family, because he understood I didn't want my past dictating my future. Then I got an unexpected email from Richard, my ex-sister's husband, who wrote that he and his new partner were doing well and sent kind words my way now that their divorce was final. Surprisingly, that message felt oddly healing. My grandmother Martha was overjoyed when I showed her the ring. She hugged me tight and whispered, "This one's a keeper." She was right. It's the little things, like how Michael turned a spare room into a home office for me, complete with a whiteboard for brainstorming, that show how deeply he cares. Somehow, word of our engagement reached my parents. Mom left a voicemail saying they wanted to celebrate with us and make amends. I haven't replied. Some doors are better left closed. Update 3. It's been 2 months since I announced our engagement, and I'd hoped for smooth sailing, but wedding planning has taken a sharp turn. At Michael's family's lakefront home, Linda has been amazing, honoring our wishes while helping with flowers, the guest list, and the cake. Only our true friends, close relatives, and supportive colleagues made the cut. Then, yesterday I opened an email from my mom. She and Dad had decided to invite Lisa because she's your only sister, and family belongs together on special days. I called Michael in a panic. He said, "Whatever you want, I'm with you. We have this day for us, not them." His calm support helped me think clearly. When Martha heard, she was furious. "After everything, they have no right," she said, offering to intervene. I drafted and redrafted my reply to my parents, making it crystal clear that Lisa must not attend, and if they couldn't respect my boundary, they were uninvited too. As expected, they responded with tears and lectures on forgiveness, even reaching out to family members on my behalf. Meanwhile, Michael's parents have been rock solid. Linda called to confirm that only invited guests will be admitted, thanks to security protocols, and his brother James volunteered to handle any unwelcome guests. My research team's support surprised me most. They offered to form a protective circle around me during the ceremony, after I mentioned the issue in a lab meeting. Dr. Anderson, our department director, even offered to escort me down the aisle. Last night, Michael and I reviewed our options, changing the location, postponing, or eloping. But I refused to let my family's drama control us. We're moving forward as planned, with extra precautions, personalized QR codes on invitations, professional security, and most importantly, our chosen family by our side. Last weekend, Martha helped me pick my dress, and as I tried it on, she said something that made me tear up. "You're shining because you're finally free to be yourself, not because of the dress." Though I'm stronger now, I still worry about what Lisa might try. This wedding isn't just about Michael and me. It's about choosing genuine love over toxic ties, peace over chaos. Update 4. On the day of the ceremony, Lisa showed up in a flashy, attention-grabbing outfit, and yes, she was visibly pregnant. Despite our security measures, she slipped in through a service entrance, escorted by my parents. Linda rushed in, pale, and whispered, "I'm so sorry, Elena, your mother insisted." Before we could intervene, Mom had planted Lisa front and center. Michael immediately sent James to handle the situation. My heart pounded as I saw that same smug expression from my engagement party, with David cross Lisa's face. I took a deep breath, looked at my reflection. My wrist adorned with the bracelet my colleagues made, the elegant gown Martha helped me choose, and the delicate microscope pendant Michael gave me, and felt a surge of calm. When Michael called to ask what I wanted to do, offering to remove them, or postpone everything, I realized I'd spent my life letting others dictate my happiness. "We're getting married," I said firmly. They can stay, but I won't let them write my story. Anderson walked me down the aisle with pride. Everything else faded as I saw Michael waiting, love and compassion in his eyes. We exchanged personal vows. He promised to support my scientific ambitions, even if it means turning more rooms into lab space, and I vowed to be his partner in every pursuit. As the reception began, I thought I was ready for anything. Then Lisa, pretending to be the maid of honor, stood with a champagne flute and launched into a speech about how she'd always saved me from mistakes and looked out for her big sister. Beneath the table, Michael's hand found mine. My research team tensed, ready to act, and Linda started to rise. But instead of letting them step in, I stood, lifted my own glass, and said, I think it's time for the bride to make a toast. What happened next deserves its own update, but let's just say that speaking your truth with dignity can be the most powerful rebuttal. Update 5. Here's what happened when I made that toast. Standing face to face with my sister's arrogant smirk, a strange calm washed over me. After years of academic lecturing, I've learned how to command a room, so I began. For those who don't know me, I'm a scientist. We deal in facts and truth, so let me share some family facts. Silence filled the room. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in the hush. The sharp scent of coffee and stale carpet hung in the air as they processed my words. Then I dropped the bomb. 3 years ago, my then fiancé was in bed with my sister, who was married at the time. My parents cared more about protecting Lisa's reputation than my broken heart. Lisa's confident smile wavered. Tom, her husband and supposed symbol of family unity, stood up, his voice shaking as I asked, So is this why you've been avoiding that paternity test? A heavy hush followed. Lisa placed a protective hand on her growing belly. I pressed on. In my family, Lisa's happiness always came first. After she ruined my first engagement, you begged me to stay quiet. You even helped her sneak in today. But today is about true family, the people who make you stronger. I gestured toward my research team, who take pride in my accomplishments, and toward Michael's family, who embraced me with unmatched warmth. Tom was the first to walk out. Lisa called his name, but he didn't stop. My mother broke into tears as my parents hurried after him. Once the door closed, the atmosphere lightened. My grandmother rose, glass in hand, and said, To Elena and Michael, to truth, to real love, and to the family we choose. The rest of the reception was magical. Laughter filled the room and everyone relaxed, free of pretense. Later, my lab team surprised me with a secret dance performance, complete with lab coat-themed choreography that had everyone cheering. The next morning, I learned that Tom had filed for divorce and finally taken the paternity test. For the first time, I didn't feel obligated to help rebuild Lisa's carefully crafted world. Update: 1 year later. It's been a year since the wedding and all those unforgettable moments. I wanted to give this community, which supported me through every twist, one final update. You deserve to know how far we've come. Michael and I are expecting our first child. When I saw the positive test, my breath caught, memories of my own fractured family resurfaced. But Michael held me tightly and said, This kid is gonna have the best mom, a brilliant scientist who loves unconditionally. His confidence washed away my fears. Michael's parents, Linda and Richard, have been incredible. They celebrated my latest research publication as enthusiastically as they did the baby news. Linda surprised me with a custom onesie featuring a DNA helix and joked, Your work is literally changing the world. Now it gets to start in our living room. Their support has been a true gift. I've picked up bits about Lisa's situation from Grandma Martha, mostly through cautious phone calls and vague updates. Tom's doubts were confirmed by the test results. Now Lisa is trying to start over, living with my parents as a single mom, trading designer dresses for midnight feeding sessions, and endless diaper runs. I feel a pang of sadness, not guilt exactly, but sorrow that her choices caught up with her. As Michael reminds me, consequences aren't cruel, they're just truth taking its course. On my end, research is thriving. Michael and I partnered to build a new lab facility on campus, thanks to a university grant. His architectural designs emphasize open, collaborative spaces. Mine focus on precision equipment and data security. We spent hours planning bench placements, airflow patterns, and even lighting temperatures. The result is a state-of-the-art lab that blends our strengths beautifully. In our new space, we built a secure enclosed play area for our baby, stocked with age-appropriate sensory toys, cushioned floors, and interactive panels. Glass walls let me keep an eye on them while I work. Michael installed motion sensors and built-in science experiments to spark curiosity from day one. My life circumstances may look similar on paper, but I've changed. I no longer crave validation or compete for attention. In my home, there's no hierarchy of love or success, only mutual respect, support, and genuine joy in each other's wins. It's the dynamic I've always longed for. Grandma Martha, overjoyed to be a great-grandmother, visits every weekend. She's already crocheted tiny lab coats and blankets and entertains us with stories of my early science fair experiments, like the homemade volcano that literally blew the roof off our living room. Sorry, Grandma. My parents have tentatively tried to reconnect. They call regularly, ask about my research, and even offer to babysit. I'm not ready to let them back fully, but I appreciate their efforts. Some wounds demand real change, not just the passage of time, to heal. Reflecting on this journey, I've learned that true family isn't defined by blood or obligation. It's the people who love you authentically, celebrate your successes, and encourage your dreams. That's the family I've chosen, and I'm endlessly grateful to everyone who supported me and followed my story. Thank you. Life isn't flawless, but it's wonderfully and authentically mine.